According to history books, the Portuguese built a trade post in 1503 near the edge of River Ancobra. Unfortunately, that particular trade post was abandoned due to insistent attacks by the indigents, so they later constructed Fort Santo Antonio in 1515. The massive triangular fort was built to enhance its defense on the landward side. The defensive capability of Fort Santo Antonio was revealed by its ability to withstand attacks even after the fall of Elmina to the Dutch in 1637. Seth Otu is my tour guide.
Fort Santo Antonio is a Portuguese fortress built way back in 1515. So it's now 506 years. And it was built purposely as a trading post. So the fort saw the need of trading in gold, ivory, cotton, pepper, iron slag, before the slavery proper by the Dutch also in 1642.
Though the fort was originally a trade post, it later became a slave post when the Dutch took over. The slave trade, according to history books, thrived for about 230 years.
When the Dutch took over in the 17th century, that was in 1642, they managed to have a conversation with our chiefs because before people were dying out of the tribal wars. So when they engaged our chiefs, they were able to convince them that now they cannot kill the people, but they can now bring them in for some gifts. That's how the slavery also began here in Axim. So over here, the slavery went on for 230 good years, from 1642 up to 1872. And what happened in the slavery was that the slaves were carried in here by the blacks themselves and other whites. And also in the slavery, there are middlemen, we call them the brokers. So these brokers, before somebody could be qualified as a broker, it means that the Dutch man had a woman in such a man's family. So those men were qualified and they were serving as brokers. So they normally check and see if there's somebody from Axim who was actually part of the slaves. And such people have to be taken away from the people, because they wouldn't want a situation whereby there will be conflicts between them and their neighbors. So it means that where forts and castles are built, people were not taken from the same place.
The fort has a tomb right in the courtyard. It is believed that the tomb holds the remains of the Portuguese Governor Gomez, who died at the age of 61.
We believe he requested for a ride from Portugal, and when he saw the ship coming out of excitement, he fell out from there and then died in there. Yeah. That's one missing aspect of the story. Yeah.
But how old was Gomez?
He was about 67 years before he made the request. He came at the age of 21. He was actually one of the youngest governors, Portuguese governors here.
Fort Santo Antonio has some significant features like an oven, stones for grinding purposes, a clock which currently has only the hour hand representing it. There were cannons placed at vantage points close to the sea. I was told the cannons were used in the days of old by the Portuguese to defend themselves from attacks. Though they became rusted due to proximity to sea and the waves, it is still strong.
When you come up, you have some cannons representing how the Portuguese were serious regarding their safety. So they had cannons facing the sea, knowing that in their days, the only way they can defend themselves was to have this protection by stretching out the cannons, pointing straight to the sea.
There are 4 prisons within Fort Santo Antonio. 2 of the prisons were for women. One of the rooms was for the calm slaves who were captured at the time. The other room, which was the inner chamber, was for the female slaves seen as stubborn. The rooms were small in size, with a little window placed somewhere in the corner. I'm currently in one of the female prisons here at Fort Antonio, and I'm told that this particular place was given to hardened in quote or stubborn female slaves, and over 80 people are put in this place. And you can imagine, you see the way the place looks like. It's just like a small single room in our contemporary times, and the inner door you see here is the chamber. There's no ventilation whatsoever, and there is this small window. This is a testament of how these women suffered in the days of old. I must tell you and confess that when I entered, I felt some chills, and in fact, I couldn't breathe properly because there was no ventilation. So imagine 80 people being here. It was such a hard nut to crack.
The other two prisons were for the male slaves, which have the same features as the female prisons. However, the female prison had a bit more space compared to those for the men.
When it comes to the male one, we have one which was preserving about 90 aggressive men, and then the other was also holding about 50 humble men, or 50 weak men, I should say. But when it comes to the humble ones, they normally had sex with them, so they were given better treatments comparing to the 80.
Fort Santo Antonio is the second oldest fort in Ghana after Elimina Castle. It is currently 506 years old. Though the castle looks attractive on the outside, the interior tells a different story. The paintings are almost fading away. Some of the walls too are almost in ruins. Many parts of the walls are moldy. I was told the interior of the fort is usually not renovated to preserve its original state.
When it comes to conservation, we know we normally deal with rehabilitation and then replacement. We don't normally do innovation. So now it's hard for us to get the same stuffs and replace them. And also, when you're about to enter, you could see that the exterior is painted. We normally do the exterior one to attract the people. But even we are not supposed to paint it. When it comes to conservation, we are supposed to wash it. But with the washing, we are not even able to wash it. And then coming in, we would want to make sure the place remains the way it is, because it's about 506 years old. And when it's painted, people might not believe in our stories.
Walking through the fort, we finally got to the Gate of No Return. The Gate of No Return was constructed by the Portuguese in the 15th century. It was formerly an emergency exit for the white occupants to escape in times of attacks until the story changed.
The Gate of No Return was constructed by the Portuguese, and then it was serving as an emergency exit to the whites. So in case there's any attack, they can use the Gate of No Return and get out of the building. So when the Dutch took over in the 17th century, that was in 1642, they were also using it, this time a different purpose altogether, serving as a special place to get the slaves out of the building. So it was actually a tunnel connected to the island you see here, now serving as a lighthouse for the safety of the boats and the ships around here. But it was blocked in 1872 by the British. That was when slavery was fully abolished.
Up on the first floor of the fort is a museum which has different architectural works on display. According to my tour guide, Mr. Otu, visits to the tourist site have dwindled, and this is affecting the tourism industry in Axim.
Before, the patronage wasn't, even though it wasn't bad, but today it's worse. People are not coming. At times, we'll be here for the whole week, nobody will come. Sometimes, even a month, nobody will come. And normally, we are always expecting foreign visitors. Yeah, so normally, all our minds are on the foreigners, but the foreigners are also not coming. Yeah, so now it's difficult. Yeah.
Mr. Otu also revealed a surprising fact. He says about 90% of indigents are unaware of the history behind the fort.
The people themselves, not all of them have knowledge about the building. When you go out there, others, when we ask them about the building, they will say it's a castle.
Since domestic tourism begins with the people, I went into the Axim town to test the indigenous knowledge about Fort Santo Antonio. It was interesting to see some indigenous taking to their heels immediately the question was asked. The few individuals who mastered courage too had very little to say.
This fort is called Fort St. Anthony. It was built by the Portuguese and they named it Santo Antonio. It was built in the year 1515. That's the little I know about the fort.
But your first now, I brought from the Baha. I send me see on my Baho Bay and Pensims. Now a court, no more year fever, they are called bed.
Okay, I don't really know much though, but what I know is the name of the fort and I think the date that it was built and but I don't really sure about the date. That's why I wanted to.
But what's the name?
It's Fort Antonio.
I have fault too. What's your fault? Well, what's the end? No, I didn't. Now, one can show one. The better trade was having. Now, one corner, one by. I'm saying.
Tourism has helped to advance development in many countries across the globe. Many countries solely rely on proceeds from this sector to improve living conditions of the people. Even though quite a bit is being done in Ghana's tourism sector, much more remains untouched. The question is, how has Fort Santo Antonio helped the people of Axim?
There was revenue that it went into the local government. The visitors of the Fort St. Antonio at that time was collected by the local governance. And what I'm saying to at the natural castle, yes, they go there, but at the moment, to the best of my knowledge, we have not made any financial gain from what. That's why we wanted them to develop even the road leading to the natural castle is such that when you go there today, you would not like to go to the place again. So we appeal to the government to help develop the place.
Fortunately, no, I'm say I exam ye in idea, but I was one be and a mama assassin on medicine. And the Akoba and say assembly, I municipal assembly now we Omana, I owe Munsem. Tiajimo Mio, Hoina, I'm says Kabi on Benya Biano. Pumtua assembly no fanda Omadeba. To be away, say,
From my interaction with the chiefs of the town, the community has not benefited greatly from Santo Antonio. So I headed off to the district assembly.
We have the Fort Anthony here, which is one of the earliest castles that were built in the country. But we are not actually getting much from it. The facility is not being used to the maximum benefit of the community. We don't have an office that will even cater for foreigners who might come to say they want to, because it's one of the oldest. They like to see where slaves were kept, what exactly the fort was built for. I think this is the purpose of forts and castles.
With the advent of social media and its many benefits, players in the tourism sector say sites like Fort Santo Antonio and many other untapped tourism destinations can flourish if they are properly advertised on social media platforms.
Tourism is in different forms, whether man-made or nature challenge. Should go to Akrokeri in Adanse, have a 3-day, weekend staycation, football games, other activities, musical entertainment. Once these people travel to the area, they're going to eat, they will sleep, they will spend, and it will affect the local economy. So this is the way we promote domestic tourism.
Some people believe that not only should the tourism sites be advertised, but the unique cultural practices within the community like festivals, special indigenous foods, games and traditional dances should be highlighted as well to sell tourism destinations to tourism lovers.
My ancestors, the chiefs, who were then settled at Lower Town, Axim, when they died, they were buried at the fort, like the governors of the fort in the old good days. So during the celebration of the Kundum festival, every Wednesday, my elder would observe pouring of libation. You light it. It was a festival that brought people far and near.
The museum shouldn't only be the National Museum. Our traditional authority, our palaces, aforementioned other palace has a museum that tourists can go there. If you go to Westminster in London, you see the tombs of King George. People go there. It's a sacred place. That tourists go there. They pay money to go and see. We have buried our kings in what we call a bem. We don't want anybody to see. We don't even know where they buried them, because we don't appreciate that these are all heritage tourism. So our traditional leaders also have a role to play. Let us not fold our arms and be expecting government to do it all. No, government cannot do it all. We need to have that royal mausoleum kings and turn it to a tourist site.
Hotels, recreational centers, food joints and nice resorts are innovative ways to attract tourists into a particular country. His suggestion is also to train the local people to master the art and skill in tourism and the hospitality industry to help shape Ghana's tourism sector.
There should also be a local content policy. If you go to Kenya, Mombasa County has some destination called Diani Watamu. Now, every resort or hotel facility there, the policy head of the staff must be locals. So it affords the citizens or the locals to train themselves, because there is a job market or an enabling environment that has been created for them. So you not go and study political science in Diani, Watamu, and be looking for a job at a resort or hotel. You go and study hotel management or hospitality management or travel tourism. So when there's an agenda, of creating job for the indigenes or the locals, it should be private-public partnership.
In terms of making tourist sites attractive, experts say the sites should also be renovated and made tourist-friendly as a magnet to maximize profit. In Ghana, most of these tourist sites are under the Ghana Museums and Monuments Boards and the Ghana Tourism Authority.
The Ghana Tourism Authority and the ministry should partner private individuals or companies and entities to develop some potential tourist destinations which government cannot fund or do alone. It's socio-economic activity and it's private. But government must lead. It's a public sector led, a private sector driven. Government does not run tourism. Government cannot run hotels. Government cannot run transport. Government cannot run tour sites. It must be run by private people. At the end of the day, government makes money from taxes. Look, we pay 1% tourism levy, it goes to government. We pay 17% COVID. Now you're paying almost 19.5% taxes is going to government. So government should create that enabling environment.
Tourism is a key economic driver in Ghana. It generates foreign exchange, creates jobs and stimulates other sectors of the economy. Statistics show that in 2020, Ghana's travel and tourism sector contributed about $1.9 billion to the country's GDP. The 2020 figure was lower compared to the 2019 figure, which stood at $3.7 billion. The drop, according to the Ghana Tourism Authority, was largely due to COVID-19. Tourism players say Ghana's tourism sector can change if its value is added to the existing tourist sites and destinations. They also want visits to the sites like Fort Santo Antonio, Batterstein, Fort Amsterdam repackaged to earn more revenue receipts. They advocate for a careful and strategic tourism campaign at the local, regional and national levels. Ghana, situated along the Gulf of Guinea, remains the land of gold. Beatrice Sanaju, GBC News, Axim.
Under 5 malaria cases, 710 cases in 2020, 311 for the first quarter of 2021.
From January 2018 to March 2019, the rate, especially among was around between 54 to 71%. Yeah, and July to September 2018 was the peak where we had 71%. But since we started the malaria vaccine